Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome to the Sunday recap, my weekly vlog where I cover some of the things I've done last week. Most of that is about gaming, of course, and some of the news that caught my eye in the last week or so. Let's start as always with EVE Online. It's my main game. It's also the reason most of you guys are actually subscribed to the channel. So I played a decent amount of EVE Online. In the first part of the week we were caught in that incursion in Dital, which is the system where we mostly play at the moment. So I went out to Nullsec, to K1Y in Providence. I did a little bit of mining in a boosted fleet there. And a little bit of ratting as well, but well, not that much. I must say one thing that I clearly noticed is that mining the Nullsec ores at the moment, when it comes to the ISK per cubic meter, so in a boosted fleet, of course, it's a major boost compared to being solo, but just straight up the ISK per cubic meter, it's not that much more anymore compared to just mining high-sec minerals. So the Nullsec minerals have lost so much ground that the efficiency there has really taken a big dive. After that, the incursion ended, so we went back to Dital and I set everything up so we could do some Take 2 research and Take 2 production. I've not yet taken the time to do enough research to decide on some of the modules that we might actually want to invest in and try to get into the Take 2 market of those, but everything is almost ready to get started on that. So we're still bringing in all our RAM blueprints so we can actually produce as much of it as possible ourselves and try to squeeze in as good of a margin as possible. But yeah, once that's done, the next step is probably going to be to try and find a few individual items that will be worth producing and researching to try and make a profit out of that, which is probably a process that we'll try to do in the upcoming weeks or so. So that was what I've actually done in EVE Online, but there's some pretty important news in EVE Online as well. First of all, we'll get the new patch, the new release for January next week already on Tuesday the 12th. So that's like a little bit unexpected because the holidays were of course in the development cycle of this release. It's a pretty small one. You can go to the website and check out the patch notes for this release if you want to. There's not that much drastic in there, but hopefully they're basically starting to lay the foundations for Citadel. I really think that that's going to start to pop up more and more, and I think that in the upcoming weeks CC could become pretty damn interesting. One change though could be important for those players that are in faction warfare. So CCP Fuzzy is going to allow the logistics frigates to go into the smaller faction warfare sites, and they're actively looking for feedback on players. So if you've not seen that already, then check it out in the forums. And if you're actually in faction warfare and you've got worries about this change, or you experience problems with this change, then make sure to give your feedback, because CCP is just exploring the idea. They're probably gonna do it in the next release, but they're definitely open to all feedback, and they want it. You know, they want anyone that enjoys faction warfare to come out, try it all out, and if it actually becomes a problem, I'm pretty sure that they're willing to try and fix that. Another thing that I noticed is that some people went looking through the files on CC and they found some hints at another event like the Frostline events, but really tied into the lore and tied into the consortium. So it was a screenshot of, I think it was like an agent, all of them in low and nullsec, or a list of agents, all of them in low and nullsec, and that one specific agent was asking for something that looked like a decryptor, and they were basically wanting anyone that find those to bring these items to them, and then you could possibly get a reward. So I like the idea. It's definitely in line with my very first thought with the Crimson Harvest and then Frostline, is that they could maybe do a similar event that would be centered around the consortium, and then they could give people cool rewards in preparation of Citadel, of course. I think it's really nice. We had a hint at that. If I find any more details, I'll definitely keep you guys up to date, but if it is anything like what I have in mind, it's definitely something that I'm going to try to put some time in and to make that happen. Another one is the drone exploit. So most of you will probably know that I was notified of a bug when it comes to the mining drones. I've been able to replicate that on CC. I made a bug report. At this point, I have not received any response from CCP, but it turns out that there is also a possible exploit with damaged drones. So you had some really insane numbers with people that actually managed to replicate a bug, an exploit on them. And there was actually a warning from CCP that anyone that was abusing this would be well punished for that activity. So they are apparently aware of what's happening. I don't know any of the details when it comes to the exploit of the damaged drones, but I do know, of course, that there is this bug that provides like extra bonuses to mining drones by let's see, releasing them, bringing them back, and then putting them back out into space again. Depending on the boosts and all of that, you can get some pretty ridiculous numbers. So it's bound to be tied to that a little bit. Hopefully, yeah, CCP is gonna fix that pretty damn soon. Because it was clearly quite an overpowered exploit if you looked at some of the damage numbers that people were doing with geckos. I think mostly on the test server though. But yeah, that's EVE Online for you. It's a big sandbox, and you never know what's going to happen with all of that complexity. But yeah, the drone exploit was definitely something that that caught my eye, because I've been doing a little bit of research when it comes to the mining drones. And then finally, was there any more news here for EVE Online? No, nothing really, except of course that the release is coming next week. Definitely looking forward to that. And the consortium operations who do the raids on the drifters are also going to try and do a raid on one of the drifter hives right after the release, because their theory is that if anything is going to change when it comes to these hives, or what you can do with the elements and things like that, it could be right after release. And so they want to be amongst the first ones to actually discover that. And so if you want in on one of those drifter raids, and you actually want to have a chance at a special one where some unexpected stuff could happen, then release day is definitely the one that you want to try to join. Next up, I played some Path of Exile as well. Next to EVE Online, I basically played no Fallout 4 last week, but I went back to some Path of Exile. I brought my witch to level 70, and I'm in Act 4 Merciless. It's going really well. I like my witch. I like her build. She's pretty tanky and she can survive quite a little bit. But I am struggling at the moment with the pace at which I'm going forward. So it's becoming really grindy. And the reason for that, someone said, well, you should have gone with a double curse build. You know, I went with some totems to help out my minions. And he's absolutely right. You know, a double curse build for my minion witch, my summoner, which would have been better, but that's just not really how I like to play these games. So I tend to try my own thing, my own build, my own idea, and just go with it. And that of course does mean that I hit the wall of efficiency and of the difficulty of content a lot sooner than some of the really specialized and fully thought out builds by the players that have been playing Fallout 4 by quite a long time. But that's just how I enjoyed the game. And I must say, getting into Act 4 here, I can grind a little bit in the Dried Lake, and then I can possibly try to make my way to Malachi, but it is really slow, and so I'm not sure how much more time I'm actually going to put in the Talisman League at this point. Still, you know, there's an expansion coming, there's new content coming, so I definitely still have my eye out for Path of Exile, but we'll see how all of that evolves. I put some time into my witch, you know, I enjoyed bringing her to level 70, but I am starting to notice the grind quite severely, and the limits, of course, of my own build as well. So we'll see how we continue with that. I could possibly decide to maybe switch to another game at this point. I'm not entirely sure just yet. Another thing that I did here, Starcraft II, I finished all the recordings of Heart of the Swarm. Now, Starcraft II is definitely not my best series. Not that many people watch it, but it's one of those things that I do enjoy. I see it a little bit more as practice, because every mission is basically an episode, so I know exactly where to start and where to end. And I enjoy making these videos. I enjoy playing StarCraft as well. I think it's a pretty damn fun game. to play. I enjoy the campaign and the story as well. So I finished Heart of the Swarm at this point. I have all those videos ready, which I think gives me like another 20 weeks of StarCraft content. And what I'm looking for now is if before my the final episode of Heart of the Swarm is released, Legacy of the Void will be on sale at some point in the Blizzard store. Then of course I'm going to pick that up and get started on the third act of the Starcraft II story, which I'm looking forward to, although I am in no rush. Playing and making all of those episodes, while fun, is pretty intensive, and it definitely gave me all of the real-time strategy experience that I needed for a little bit. So having another 20 weeks to actually pick up Legacy of the Void and get started on those videos, I think is pretty good. But I just wanted to let you guys quickly know about how all of that is going. So I do make those episodes when I can beforehand, and then I release one every week. Basically gives me a day where I've got a little bit more possibilities when it comes to maybe making an extra video, releasing something else, keeping an eye on news, or just well, taking it easy. It all depends a little bit. And basically that's what I've been doing last week. So EVE Online, Path of Exile, finishing the StarCraft II series, and then the biggest news that I noticed is of course Oculus Rift. The pre-orders are open. It was not received that well. A lot of people complain about the price, and I can't disagree with them. I think it's like more than 600 euros, close to 700 euros if you add in all the shipping costs and things like that. For an Oculus Rift is definitely more than I had expected. I'm slightly hesitating still because EVE Online Valkyrie is of course a game that you get with that, which I would like to try and play myself. So I may yet decide to go for an Oculus Rift pre-order, but at the moment I was more looking at maybe 400 euros or something like that as a maximum, and so it's decently likely that I'll just wait for a second generation or something like that, where the price will actually drop a little bit lower than what it is now. It is pretty expensive. I would have to buy a controller as well, I think, to get the best experience, but I feel it's really interesting technology. EVE Valkyrie, if it is successful, could be a major boost to CCP. And I will definitely keep an eye on the evolution of how all of this is going to develop when it comes to VR, Oculus Rift, all of the other ones, EVE Valkyrie, and that new experience in gaming. So not entirely sure. I may jump in on day one, I may not. Basically, what I'm wondering a little bit, if I understand the basics of how the Oculus works, is that it's basically two screens that create the 3D effect. I wonder if it is feasible for an individual like myself with just existing software like Open Broadcaster software or Fraps or Shadowplay or something like that, to actually record one of the screens and then be able to share EVE Online experiences, although not in 3D. If that is possible, I may yet decide to jump in, but I need to do a little bit of research on that. So if you know if something like that is possible, if you have any concrete ways that, yeah, sure, if you would buy an Oculus Rift and if you would play Valkyrie, you would also have OBS installed, you can actually create videos out of that. That would be some pretty good information to have. At the moment I don't have it, and well, we'll see, because we still have some time, of course, before Oculus actually comes out. One thing, of course, that I am like slightly disappointed in is that Valkyrie is once again an exclusive for a different platform. What this brings to light for me is I don't really like this strategy from CCP, that they are developing Valkyrie for VR and then you've got Dust for the consoles. It just doesn't make sense to me. As an EVE Online player, I'm a PC player. CCP knows that they have a market of hundreds of thousands of PC players that will play their games and will be willing to pay to play their games, and I don't fully understand why they don't always keep that in mind and maybe develop for both platforms. But that is their choice, and if they did, if they brought Dust for PC, I would be the first one to jump in. If they would somehow bring Valkyrie to the PC, I would jump in as well. If they would come out with any other game there would obviously be interest for that. Yeah, I don't fully understand this way of developing new games for completely different platforms from CCP. Personally, I would prefer that they would also develop for PC a little bit more, so that we would actually have other ways to support CCP, other games to experience from them, but at the moment it's just not happening. So we'll have to wait and see if we ever get more information on Legion. But other than that, yeah, it's gonna be a Rift if we want to play their next game, which is of course Valkyrie. Anyways, that's pretty much it for this Sunday recap. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all next time.